In order to make an accurate assessment of a person with Parkinson's disease and how they're doing on their medications, it's very important to know how they're doing throughout the course of a day. There are 3 different states that can be described: on, which obviously means they're doing their best; off, which is they have a relative lack of dopamine stimulation; and dyskinesia, where there's an excessive amount of stimulation. The off periods usually occur when the medication is wearing off, of course. So the symptoms would relate to the lack of medicines, and these could be anything from slowing down of the movements, or a return of their tremor. Their walking becomes slower, or what they call a shuffling gait. And finally, their speech volume can become very low or mumbly. People can also have difficulty getting up out of a chair or doing any simple movements. At the opposite extreme, when the medication is at its peak amount of strength, you can get dyskinesias, which are involuntary movements, and those consist of either writhing or rocking movements from side to side. Now, as an example of these, I've included a little clip of Michael J. Fox discussing his own Parkinson's symptoms with Katie Couric. As you watch this video, notice that at the beginning, Michael J. Fox is relatively slower, with a less expressive face and more of a relative tremor. A few minutes later, however, while he's talking, apparently his medication's kicking in more, and he develops involuntary movements of his legs.
Joining me now is Michael J. Fox. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
When you did the campaign ad for Claire McCaskill, I've interviewed you on a number of occasions, but tell us what you were experiencing that day and what we were seeing as a result.
Well, on any given day, I have a thousand different things that I can feel, and I go through a million cycles over the course of a day. For example, right now, this is a dearth of medication. Not by design, I just take it and it kicks in when it kicks in. Sometimes it kicks in too hard, and then you get what's called dyskinesias, which is that rocking motion.
Rush Limbaugh suggested that you had failed to take your medication intentionally. So when you did that ad, you'd be more symptomatic and therefore more sympathetic.
The irony of it is that I was too medicated and was dyskinesic. Because the thing about being symptomatic is it's not comfortable. Nobody wants to be symptomatic. It's like wanting to hit yourself with a hammer. You know, you want at all times to be as comfortable as you can be. And at this point now, if I didn't take medication, I wouldn't be able to speak. I'd have a mask face. I wouldn't be able to speak, and I'd lock up and freeze and wouldn't be able to move.
In the next example, I'm going to show Michael J. Fox again when he is testifying at the U.S. Senate about stem cell research and funding for Parkinson's disease. He is clearly very dyskinetic with his increased movements, whereas if you can see Muhammad Ali adjacent to him, he is in the off condition with his very masked faces.
They are determined to cure Parkinson's. Panelists testify before a Senate subcommittee on Labor, Health and Human Services. Elsewhere, biomedical experts search for advanced methods to stop this progressive degenerative disease.
But I'm here to tell you that administering a successful research program is not rocket science. It's mostly common sense and the will to get things done. And we're going to get this done. This subcommittee, this Congress, and the NIH have the opportunity to make it happen in time for many more people today living with Parkinson's.
Federal funds necessary to carry out this promising research. Muhammad has never been one to do anything halfway, and he has never settled for doing something second best in anything that he has done. The federal government must aim high and work hard to reach the goal of finding a Parkinson's cure. Together, let's knock Parkinson's disease down for the count. Thank you very much.
So, in summary, the Parkinson's symptoms can certainly fluctuate a great deal throughout the day, usually as a response to medication effect, but sometimes the responses can become very unpredictable, such as when somebody freezes, which means they suddenly are unable to move. And as we've discussed, off is the lack of movement or too little dopamine, and the opposite is dyskinesia, which indicates too much dopamine stimulation producing an excessive amount of movement.